you can get suspicion, and people can be paranoid that you're the one that's doing it. You've got to try and get the suspicion off yourself. It's quite a strange and quirky indie game, but it's there. If you ever wanted to play that Border Patrol guy, or you want to not let people into Russia or not let people out of Russia,
I've got to be honest with you there, Al. That sounds dreadful. That just sounds really, really boring as a game.
Well, you sound dreadful and boring as well. So
yeah, well, at least I'm not playable.
You are.
In what sense?
In I can't say on radio sense.
Moving on.
Yes, indeed. Astro, the awesome headphone people, the headset people who do gaming headsets, don't do anything else but gaming headsets, and they do very, very good gaming headsets, but they're really, really, really expensive. They are doing a Battlefield 4 special. Now, this is the first time they've ever actually went with a game and done the whole, licensed gear. They don't look too different from the Astro A50s that people probably currently own, but they're going to have a big 4 on the side and be kind of orangey, and they've got a special Battlefield 4 setting on them that DICE created so that, you can better hear the game. I suppose it's a kind of cool and awesome thing if you've got $300 just to spend on a headset. If you've just got that kicking about and you're a big, massive Battlefield 4 fan, then, go ahead. If you've not got that kind of money, then, don't spend that kind of money on a headset, because obviously you're crazy. What else have we got? We've got the PlayStation 4 was originally supposed to be released with the PlayStation iCam, the camera, their equivalent of the Kinect. But they decided it was too pricey and they removed it from the bundle, and now it's sold separately. So they originally were going with an Xbox plan. That whole, it's going to be packaged in, and games, we're going to make developers really support this. And then they decided, it's actually not that advantageous to have it in there because it bumps the price up by 50 or 60 quid. Let's just drop it. Something that Microsoft probably should have done, but we've had that argument before, so I'm not going to get into it. And Sleeping Dogs, the awesome game from last year, which was like a GTA clone, but based in Hong Kong, where you were a cop and you infiltrated the triads and tried to take them down from the inside. That is getting a sequel, which is awesome because it was a really, really good game, considering it was essentially just a Grand Theft Auto clone, but in Hong Kong. It's a really, really fun game to play. It's open world. It's got a great story. It's all about martial arts and kung fu. There's very, very little gunplay in it. The driving's excellent in it, and it's getting a sequel, so that's good news. And Call of Duty Ghosts are going to be using dedicated servers, which is really, really good news for all you online gamers, because that means connection issues are going to be pretty much nil. So this means that when you're playing a game, you're not going to get booted out. You're not going to have terrible lag. You're not going to be getting shot round corners and stuff. This is something they should have been doing years and years ago, but they've only just caught up with us. So there we go. That's pretty much the gaming news up to this point in the week.
Okay, thank you. Now, one thing that got a big response this week on the Facebook page, well, obviously not just one thing, but something that got a massive response. Last week on the show, you talked about putting out this question on the Facebook page, and to the listeners as well, because we were getting some feedback, obviously, during the show, about the saddest moments in TV, things that made you, well up a little bit while you're watching TV. And you made, of course, the distinction that things like X Factor or reality TV, Coronation Street, it had to be slightly genre specific, or the sort of shows that we would be more interested in at Following the Nerd. Now what you've done is, obviously because you have so many responses, the response was amazing. I loved reading through them. There's so many things where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So what you've done is you're going to put it out over 3 weeks, is that right?
Yes, so this week it's 30 to 21, then next week will be 20 to 11, and then 10 to 1.
Okay. Now, you put the first one up the night just before the show. You were messaging me back and forth during the week while you were putting these together. Let's just go through it first. With the number 30, talk to us a wee bit about what people have been telling you made them very sad.
Alright, yeah, first off, this has been one of the most depressing weeks of my life because I've had to do this research. It's really, really bad. It's this is my first I would say my first proper week back at work, because I'd been at work for a couple of weeks, but it was like a phase-in period after my back problems, and then I was off for a couple of weeks there, or just on annual leave. I took my holiday, and then I've been back. So I've been back this week properly, back into the thick of it and stuff. So I was kind of just trying to work and everything and play all that, but on my lunch break I've been writing the articles and stuff, and I've been doing a lot of research and been sitting on my phone watching YouTube videos of, because I've not seen every single show that's on the list. Loads of people had said things that I've never even seen. So a lot of times you can watch, like, especially a lot of them are death scenes, because let's face it, death is pretty bloody depressing. It's not exactly the most exciting of things, unless you're in a lot of pain and you really just want to die.
It depends who's down in my track record, really.
But you mostly, if your beloved character is dying, then you're going to be quite sad about it. So a lot of these are death scenes, but if you've never watched a show, you've got absolutely no context in it. And I was saying that to you today, Mark, when I texted you and I said I saw the episode of Doctor Who last night where Donna has the mind wipe thing.
Yes.
And I was crying like a baby. I was just like, no, I don't want her to go. I want her to be the awesome half Doctor, well, half Time Lord, half human. I thought that was brilliant, and the fact that she had to go, and then I think it was mostly cemented when her granddad was like, she was better with you. And I was like, oh god, she was so much better, because now she's just a loudmouth Londoner again.
Donna still to this day was my favourite companion in the modern era of Doctor Who. I know that's quite controversial.
At least she wasn't making puppy dog eyes on every 2
she
seconds.
Like, oh, I love you so much. And she was a realistic character. She called a spade a spade. I thought she was very funny. I actually liked her. I thought her character was brilliant.
I hated her at the start, but as soon as you got a couple of episodes in, I was like, I really love this character, and just the way he copied her and stuff like that as well was really, really funny.
Okay, right.
Actually, as well,
anyway,
if you like your trivia, originally, if Catherine Tate wasn't available to come and do a full series 4 of Doctor Who, there was going to be a new companion brought in called Penny, who was going to have the same character and personality traits as Donna.
Right.
But it was going to be played by a completely different person, obviously. And what remains of that is, if you watch the first episodes of Series 4 that Catherine Tate's in, Partners in Crime with the Adipose, there is a journalist in the episode called Penny, and that's pretty much everything that Russell T Davies originally wrote, condensed down and put into that character.
All right.
So there you go, a little bit of trivia. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so, Al, without further ado, as time is moving on, number 30.
Okay.
Number 30!
The end of Deep Space Nine, which is Season 7, Episode 25, What You Leave Behind. Now, what people were saying about this is it was brought up a couple of times, and they were just saying that it was probably one of the saddest moments in a Star Trek TV show since the original series. And I grew up on I grew up on Jesus, that's all. The Next Generation. But Deep Space Nine is where my Trek fandom was really cemented. And I didn't actually see it all the way till the end until recently, because it's on Netflix. I'd only seen maybe up to season 4, and I completely forgot about everything. And I started watching it again, and I was like, this is really good. But it's not so much that the ending's sad because loads of people die. You know how that usually happens at the end of TV shows, people die or whatnot. It's just everybody it's kind of going off on their own. They're going off into their own assignments, and Captain Sisko has this brilliant speech where he pretty much says that, no matter where we go in life, no matter what we do, a little part of us will always be in Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. And then one of the guys, Vic, he starts singing The Way You Look Tonight. I know it sounds really random, but it actually works in the episode. It's not just he says that and then the guy's like, The Way You Look Tonight. But it's quite sad because, these characters you absolutely love, you think they're brilliant, and they're disappearing, they're going off, and then, it's just one of those moments. You just don't want to see people leave. You don't want to see things kind of go away. You just want the show to stay. And even as cheesy and maybe horribly put together Deep Space Nine was, it ended really, really well, especially with a Star Trek show, because there wasn't going to be any movies. It wasn't a horribly really, really successful show. It was what it was, so they just ended it, and you knew there wasn't going to be, because Next Generation ended, and then there was a movie, and there was another movie, there was another movie, then another one. Same with the original series, the movies, and then there's reboots and everything. Deep Space Nine was its own little thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so that's that one.
All right, number 29, and this is one that I think I said this last week, but it's certainly one that I can feel sympathetic towards. Is Scott Bakula. We talked about him earlier on. I grew up with Quantum Leap. Scott Bakula, he's one of the, I have a handful of people that I really need to interview on Following the Nerd, and Scott Bakula is one of them, because Dr. Sam Beckett will always be. But this was a character that I really, really loved as well, in Chuck.
Yeah, I suppose we should say right now, if you're really spoiler sensitive, even though a lot of these things are quite old, some of them are new. So if you are spoiler sensitive, you might not want to listen to this.
Yeah, but as you said, that most of the shows are a number of years old at this stage.
Yeah, and I have put a spoiler alert at the start of it. I've put a spoiler alert in the photo and stuff like that. So you have been warned at this point. Chuck, we know what Chuck is. Chuck's a show about a geek who ends up with a government supercomputer on his head, and then eventually that government supercomputer allows him to be able to do things that he would never be able to do, like fight and do parkour and sword fight and stuff. But Scott Bakula plays his dad, who had left when he was very, very young, essentially to protect him and his sister from everything that he was, because he was essentially a mad computer scientist who created a lot of things for the CIA. He actually created the computer that is in Chuck's head, or essentially the first version of that computer. And he comes back into the show, and he starts to reconnect, but he's very introverted. He's a computer geek. He doesn't really like talking to people and stuff. He likes talking to his computers. And he's really just starting to get back into that life, and both Casey and Sarah get kidnapped, and Chuck decides to go back to get them. His dad says, no, you need to run, you need to go. If you want to protect everybody you ever loved, you need to just leave and not come back. And he says no, because Chuck's the better man. He says, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing what you've done, I'm going. So he says, I'm going to come with you. He goes with him. They go up against the horrible, the brilliant, the best villain of any TV show ever, Daniel Shaw. Amazing villain, played by the wonderful Brandon Routh. Yes. I never thought to say that, but there you go. And Chuck is going to fight Brandon Routh, and Brandon Routh has got this computer in his head as well, and so they both kind of cancel each other out. And the fact is, Chuck can't fight when he's emotionally compromised. So when he's upset, when he's angry, anything like that, he just can't fight because he can't access that computer in his head. And Daniel Shaw shoots his dad so that he can't fight. And it's just this horrible, horrible moment. His dad's lying there dying. His sister actually sees this, but she's way, way back. And his dad's lying there and just looks at him and he smiles and he says, just remember, Charles, you're special. You're special. And it does have a further meaning for the show, but it's just that moment, like the last words you get to say to somebody. And, you hope that they're going to be meaningful. You hope they're going to be something. And it was just horrible. He just came back into their life. He was just... that important man had just resurfaced, and then he was sadly just ripped away.
On watching Chuck, I still haven't watched the last series of it, but on watching that one, I thought it would have been a masterstroke if they had brought him back at the end and he was the overall series villain.
Oh, really? I thought, I suppose that'd be quite...
Because I was convinced, I was like, there's no way they just killed Scott Bakula. You don't kill Scott Bakula. He's far too nice for that. And I thought, right, you know what, I was convinced they were going to bring him back and he was going to be the big bad.
I think it was a really good nod for the TV producers to do that, because he was such a lovable character, and it just showed how vulnerable Chuck really was. Here is the ones you love, I'll take them away, and it showed you how horrible Shaw was as a person as well. He would just, in a moment's notice, he would just take away one of the things that Chuck loved, and then you're scared that he's going to go and take away the other thing that Chuck loved, which is Sarah, and no one wants to watch a show that doesn't have her on it.
Right, now, next, number 28.
28.
A show that I never, despite the lead character's real surname, I never ever got into it at any point. It was The Wonder Years.
Yeah, it's a really strange little show. It's weird, considering what it was. I think it was really big in America. I don't think it was massive over here. I don't think anybody watched it over here, actually. I remember it was shown on Channel 4, like really, really early in the morning. And that's when I first caught wind of it. But I've seen it in later years on Sky and stuff. Basically, it's just the last episode. It's kind of it does a kind of montage of, what's happened. Well, it's not really a montage. It's his monologue. He's telling you what happens after he's kind of become a man. He's left his family. He runs away. He goes to, pretty much make up with his one great love, and there's this big scene in the rain, and they walk back into town on the 4th of July, and walk back into town on the 4th of July, kind of sees his dad, and he walks up to his dad, and they don't need to say sorry to each other that he walked out. His dad's